Here we are, the last show of 2022. Inspired by Gertrude Stein's salons of over a century ago, we return a digital art salon for the 21st century. Artist Journal, December 30th, 2022, Berlin. My name is Adrian Pocobelli. I welcome you back, my friends, my digital friends, true friends out here, with all the support that you have given me in this since August 12th, when I started this, show with scotch tape, scissors, and duct tape. And here we are. So anyways, huge thanks for all the support and the comments. I lay with the summaries and everything, the retweets. I mean, yesterday there's over 160 views in like the last 18 hours, which might not sound like very much, but this was literally built from the 30 subscribers I had for 10 years, who are just, friends and acquaintances that happened to, accidentally be subscribed to my channel. So in other words, we're at like 330 subscribers new that we've scraped together in the last few months, and it is much appreciated and all that stuff. So anyways, I hope you're going to have a very happy new year here. So Daniel W. with a new piece in his Redux collection, The Creation of Adam, of course, one of the most famous images in the tradition, I was going to say, how do you say it now? I mean, you could say in the Western tradition, and that would be true. But I think we could call it in the world art tradition, because it almost seems like, because we're all global now, right? Like we know this, I know this from the Twitter spaces that I've done. Where was the last guy from? Was he from Georgia? We're, totally global. And so, which is super, it's easy to forget. So it almost, so we're not really anymore, just by virtue of the artists that we're dealing with on a daily basis here, you and me who are on these platforms checking things out on Twitter and wherever else. This is a global situation here. So it's hard, so it seems like rather than a Western or Eastern or whatever, this is a major image for lack of a better term, and help me out in the comments if you have a better term, in the global art tradition, in world art. How's that? Okay, so anyways, I could go on and on. Now, some of you, first of all, the rendition is pretty cool. CMYK, digital CMYK, cyan, this blue here, magenta, this kind of pinkish color, yellow, and K is black in printing, for those that don't know. And you might be wondering to yourself, well, what about the green? Well, the green comes, of course, in printing, and actually Dan does a really nice job of leaving the traces here when you put cyan on the yellow, and there you have a green. So anyways, kind of hilarious, almost a middle-aged Adam with a receding hairline here, which is actually pretty funny. And there's a lot of creativity here that's easy to miss. The no pupils in the eyes, even just like the almost anxious face here, the X's on the body there and the belly button and everything. A lot of you might not know, even the angels, there's a lot of interpretation here that would be easy to just kind of gloss over and go, oh, of course, that's how it should be. But as they say, great artists make it look easy. And Daniel W. is making it look easy, isn't he? Quick thing on this image. Let me just do this. Thank you, Alexi, for the command 0 there. So Creation of Adam, I brought it up here. Now, there are interpretations, and probably most of you will know this, but there are interpretations, I believe, if I remember correctly, that this is also a reference to the heart, because they were studying anatomy, and that was new. And anatomy is kind of like one of those sciences, one of those areas of knowledge that I put right up there with what I was going to call earth sciences, but geology, I should say, and what else? And astronomy. It's one of those real things that it's just there, and we can debate on perception and all that, but basically everybody has a heart, everybody has a nose, everybody has, generally speaking, there is a sky. There are things we can kind of agree on here that aren't overly theoretical. We can theorize about them and how they came to be, but the fact that they're there, so anatomy for me is one of those, it's tempting to call it a kind of, for lack of a better term, universal knowledge. And so here we have it here, right at this God enveloped in what seems to be a heart. Maybe you could also make the argument that this is like a brain. So interesting. I mean, you look at the color and you could argue a heart. Maybe it's none of those things. But anyway, just some food for thought there. And so interesting. And you see kind of the interpretation that Dan W. puts on it. So anyways, I thought pretty brilliant. Sold out, or no, not sold out. Just sent to probably some collectors. Mikey Wilson, Flexosaurus, familiar names for those that watch this show and who are on the platform. So anyways, very cool work. Shout out to Bridget NYC, another name that a lot of us will be familiar with, who picked up Rainbow. I need to put more work on. That's kind of like my New Year's resolution. Like, I haven't been overly productive since this show started. Like, it's taken a little more time than I expected, but I'm thrilled with the show. And now I'm basically working it and getting used to everything about it, working the schedule out and everything. So anyways, I hope to be so much more productive, because the more productive you are, and this is the, maybe a takeaway for you, or at least this is what I find, the more productive I am, the less I'm concerned about what I'm putting out. And that's kind of a good feeling. It's sort of like Picasso doing his painting a day, and it turns out how it turns out. And to me, it reduces some of the self-consciousness, rather than, okay, here's my one artwork every 3 months, and then everybody to scrutinize, and then we can judge, Pocobelli based. So there's another virtue in putting out a lot of art, because in a sense, the expectations are diminished, which is nice as an artist to actually, because you feel freer and you don't feel like, okay, this has got to be the Mona Lisa here. Okay, so anyways, shout out to Bridget NYC, thank you for collecting. And also a shout out, she brought up a really interesting thing here. My object link wasn't working, and she said, and I bring this up because you might have a similar issue sometimes, those links won't work. She said, use this link because it's shorter. So very helpful, nice message from Bridget NYC. Shout out to you. So this is a way of shortening your object link if it's too long, or if you're having issues like I had in the Twitter description here of it getting screwed up and I'd have to check on it every so often. This is how you fix it. Object.com/@ and your username. Thank you, Bridget. So a couple of comments here. One actually got erased, which is unfortunate. I just put a like on it, and sometimes I'm out and about, so I'll reply to it later. I'll like first and reply later. But they're wondering about Manifold XYZ and how it works. And I also got another message from someone about, because we sent out the emergency, everybody mint on Manifold. So I'm going to go a little bit into that, just a tiny bit, just to give people a clue. But I basically barely figured it out myself, but we'll go just very slightly into that so people have a clue. We heard from RuneTune as well, and yeah, this was great. So first of all, it was definitely me shouting out the LB and the spaces the other day. As I recall, my train of thought was on both the variety of tools being used in the digital art space, as well as our penchant for retro hardware and imagery, which was a super interesting discussion. RuneTune was suggesting actually that we use like Nokia phones as displays, for example, or retro tech. Very interesting discussion. So LB was one of the first to come to mind. And yes, and this was the big highlight for me here of this comment, I'm very much on board with co-hosting a regular weekday spaces happening sometime in the morning EST. So I'm going to continue with Wednesdays at 9:30. We're going to try and figure out this medium and try and have a sensational show there. So use links and whatever, so I'm excited. RuneTune sounds great too, as we discussed last time. So huge shout out to RuneTune. And if our mystery co-host comes back, we can have like 3 or 4 co-hosts on one Twitter Spaces, and that might just add everything. So all is good everywhere, but if Runetoon wants to do a regular Wednesdays, that would make my year. Okay. This was a really nice comment too from Lucas Andrade de Almeida. Love your videos, very important, which is a very nice comment. So thank you for that. Also, just on this show from a couple of days ago, I was trying to remember the artist here who makes works like this. And of course, Lauren McLaughlin chimes in. Thanks for the fascinating insights. That element of Nicholas Dietrich's work reminded me of Alexander Calder. This may be what you were thinking of too. Exactly. You nailed it. So Alexander Calder, and I've never been a huge Calder fan, but I kind of looked up just a little bit here. And of course, this is Alexander Calder and the mobiles, right? And so this was interesting just in this first line here. His innovative mobiles that embrace chance in their aesthetics. So it did make me appreciate a little bit Calder more, because they are kind of drifting with the air currents. And so you do see chance in action, which was kind of so it just made me appreciate Alexander Calder more, this tiny little write-up here. He has other works. This looks like Berlin, actually. This looks like the Neue Nationalgalerie in Berlin, which is a new museum, newly rebuilt. So here's Manifold XYZ, and I'm going to keep this pretty short, but just to give you guys a clue. So here is the website, Manifold XYZ. You can enter the site, but really you want to go here to the studio login if you want to set up your own contract. And this is what you're going to see here. This is what we're talking about here. Last chance for OpenSea legacy royalties enforcement. See OpenSea here. Creators have until January 2nd at noon Eastern to deploy contracts and mint at least one token to maintain collection contract eligibility for OpenSea royalties without blocking zero royalty marketplaces. So it has to do with royalties. I'm not even super clear on what I'm like. It sounds like if you want to kind of create some contracts where you're going to ensure that you get your royalties, that this will help that process. Future-proof your work by deploying contracts and minting your contract's first token now. Prepping for a future collection, deploy a new contract and mint a single token with placeholder artwork and metadata to use later. So you see, they're saying just create your contracts now. You can fill in the blanks later. Okay, just put a token image there, maybe even a gray rectangle if you want. And then, so you hit deploy a new contract. And then you do stuff like Pocobelli, put your symbol, say like Poco, and then here you put an ASCII mark, and so you link down here, and then there is an ASCII generator. So then you can put Pocobelli, and I liked was it here? Yeah, the ANSI regular. Then you hit select and copy, put that in. Now, you're going to see here, so I'm creating at least two contracts here when I do it. I'm going to make one for ERC 721s and one for ERC 1155. So if you're doing additions, multiples, you use ERC 1155. If you're doing just one of ones, you'll want to use ERC 721. This is also, I think, if you're putting out like a PFP project, probably a lot of people use Manifold, I would assume. I don't know. Because a lot of PFP projects are 721s. So anyways, then you have your paste in your ASCII text, deploy on Girly. Now, I've already done this one. Let's call it composites, actually. And my mom actually was concerned, rightly so, that some of those composites I was showing yesterday that use 3 Google image results and then are all put together, you might want to be careful, she was saying, because maybe if there's a copyright issue, they remove that and you no longer have your kind of OpenSea royalties locked in. Anyways, I don't want to lose you guys, but all to say that was an interesting point. But so I thought I could make multiple contracts here, but she brought up a really interesting point just on copyright there. So composites, I would make ERC 721 because I'd want to do one of ones. Maybe I'd call it Poco C, and then Pocobelli, maybe I'd call it So I'll try and make one actually, Pocobelli composites. And then we're going to move on here because I know you guys are here for the art, but I just got too many questions on this. So you see something like that. Okay, let's say deploy on Gurley. And then, yeah, so then you sign. Now, there's something, so what is Gurley, right? So this is all on Ethereum. And I am going to kill that because I don't want anybody to see. I'm super paranoid about security, even though I don't think that. So your MetaMask, and if you don't know MetaMask, you're probably going to have a hard time getting this all done in the next 2 days. I don't think it's the end of the world, to be honest, if you don't have this done. But you're going to need probably to know MetaMask. So this is on the Gurley testnet. So when you set this up, it asks you to switch your MetaMask over to Gurley from the Ethereum mainnet. Then there's a place where you can get, and you'll find the link. If you don't have any Gurley ETH, you go to gurleyfaucet.com. That'll take you here. So it's a little complicated, but if you're familiar with MetaMask and Ethereum, it's not going to be rocket science. You're going to be on Gurley, and then you have to sign up. It's just name, email, password sort of thing. And then once you're signed up, you put in your wallet address, enter your wallet address here, send me the ETH, and then they send you Gurley ETH, which isn't worth anything, and that you can use to deploy your contract on Manifold. So I hope that's not too complicated for you, but that is kind of like a brief walkthrough. If you have questions, I'd put it out on Twitter. You can maybe put it in the comments of this Twitter when I tweet this out. Maybe there's someone out there that can help, but I basically just figured this out yesterday. Okay, so best of luck. That's basically the best I can do here within the context of this program because we've already taken 5 minutes and most people are here for the art. So I hope that helps. Okay, and this is kind of what it looks like. And then then you deploy a contract on the mainnet, mint a token on the mainnet. First you mint a token on Gurley, then deploy on mainnet, mint a token on mainnet, and set up royalties. So for those who are familiar with MetaMask, you kind of have everything you need kind of here that I've given you here. There's a bit of a learning curve, but you'll figure it out, okay? Don't get psyched out by the testnet, the Gurley testnet, because you can get your ETH. They'll send you some free ETH, and it's just like, it's Gurley ETH, so it's not worth anything. It's testnet ETH. So here's someone that's actually done it, and we looked at Booboy, I think just yesterday, and they put out a really nice work, actually. Another nice drawing. What is this called? Booboy Holiday Vibe, an illustrator, and yeah, open edition, sold 27. So this is an 1155. Open editions, because there's more than one, he made an open edition. You see it says 1155 there. If you want to do one of ones, so I'll create a contract for one of ones. I'll create a contract for Pocobelli editions, and then maybe I'll create a contract for a series like just for composites and go, oh, okay, I want to put the composite series on Manifold. I'll make one for that there. And as far as my mom's concerns, I think they're well placed, but at the same time, I think, and I'm not totally sure, I think we have total sovereignty on our contracts, so I'm not even sure they can delete anything once it's up. But she brings up a very good point, so I'll probably start with others and maybe also do a composite. Let's see. But anyway, thanks, Mom. A good concern. So anyways, that person, actually, Booboy sold 27. Nice cheap price. Not bad money, frankly. That's probably half an ETH, right? So pretty cool. Turkarak. So sold this one of one only for 20. So Turkarak is, of course, kind of focuses a little bit on, not in this work, but on the grotesque side of human nature and just kind of interesting social situations. So here it looks like some partiers spray painting or, after a long night or something. So Turkarak I continue to look at, and I guess this person who bought the work this morning, Captain Kimmy, is also a believer in Turkarak. All of the one of ones got snapped up in the last few days. I feel like I should have bought more of them. They're really cheap. Maybe more will come out, but the race is on now with Turkarak. So anyways, also an illustrative artist. I thought this was just an interesting work that I saw on Twitter, Time to Dissociate. And Faith Love is also on Super Rare. And so I looked Faith Love up, and I thought this is actually a pretty interesting work here with the, I don't even remember what you call these games, but where you trace the line through the numbers here, follow the numbers to trace the line. I haven't used one of those for so long, I don't even remember what they're called. Pretty cool works on Super Rare, and this sold for almost 2 ETH, 1.9 ETH in September. So just another artist for us to look at here, and you can get a sense of their work here. So just interesting. Always, a new discovery here. You see kind of a similar theme to that one we saw on Twitter with the space in the head. So anyways, interesting. Also very interesting here. Just a unique artist. This was retweeted by Weblinks today and Varogan, and I think he's been championing Varogan for a while. And anyways, I thought kind of went well with our illustrative area part of our program here. So anyways, just kind of an interesting work here. Kind of mysterious with this, what looks like a browser, right? You see you can almost put the web. So just kind of a mysterious work here. Maybe it's on the wall. Maybe this is like a digital frame. So kind of deceptive work in what's going on there. Portrait of what used to be the best month of the year, but now it's a distant, quick mess in which everything happens so fast, but one's trying to stay chill and pretend nothing is happening. So a little bit of darkness there from Varogan. Midnight in a Perfect World. This is one we missed from Paper Crane from a couple of weeks ago. And I thought this was a really nice, just kind of holiday work from Paper Crane. So anyways, edition of 30. And let's do this. And yeah, went for actually pretty cheap for Paper Crane, 12, 15. Actually, primary sale of 470. Often Paper Crane is much more expensive than this. So anyways, cool work. This is another one I found on Twitter. So a few new artists say Louis, Fuzzy Feeling. This is kind of going around a little bit. Editions of 400. And just a really interesting use of circles, I guess. And a little kind of like dot kind of printing sort of thing. I'm not even sure. But interesting work combined, contrasting with this kind of gradients in here, kind of weird abstraction of people, weird portrait sort of thing. Fuzzy Feeling, it's good to take care. And only one left. Okay, a ton were transferred, so maybe sending them out to people. 400 editions. Interesting. And here's some of Louis' other work, painter, animator, comic artist. So a bit of a standout piece here, isn't it? In the sense that it kind of gets your attention. Feels like a bit of a breakthrough work. So again, one of the great things about Object is how you can look at the history and then all of a sudden, like, if I'm Louis, I'd go, hey, let's just make a series of 20 of these because this seems to have hit a nerve. New one from Jan Lucas Migone, Bright Fire, the Shiny Dark Life collection. Is this a one of one? Let's just see what it went for. 125. So pretty respectable money there for, continuing the kind of dancing skeletons vibe with some really interesting colors here as well. This is another one we missed a couple of weeks ago, I think. Let's look at the date. December 15th. Yeah, while I was gone in Canada. This is by Working Class, and I thought this was just pretty interesting. Descent to Consciousness, so I didn't want to miss it. And just kind of weird, right? I mean, McDonald's and made in Microsoft Paint, which is almost a genre in itself, but I'd probably categorize that as tough call. Maybe digital painting is what I'd call that. Microsoft, kind of misspelled. Working Class, I guess, is a WK. Life is Good. Someone saluting. Maybe something graphic here, perhaps. A plant. So just maybe a portrait with a myth hat. So a lot going on here, isn't there? I thought a really kind of cool, ambitious work. Again, it looks like this is not just making a pretty picture online. This is like, there seems to be some concepts here. This is the kind of thing you'd see, kind of ideas you run into with a Rauschenberg or something like that, right? Where you're getting different, artist reporter kind of ideas, right? Just different impressions of reality perceptions of reality that you're putting on the canvas, right? So life is good. Descent to consciousness. So working class with a cool work. Another kind of bold work, this time from Dexter. Look at this composition, this outrageous composition. Gas station, and I just think, making things interesting. Because again, rationally, we want to do some golden ratio things, rule of thirds type things, or you could even put it in the center. But I mean, this whole piece revolves around the fact that it's kind of this outrageous composition. So I thought really original, keeping things interesting. A picture where Jason is in the middle of a trip and stops at a gas station, 3000 by 1500 pixels by Dexter, buy for 350. I picked one up. Sean Luke doing very well here. 2.5 ETH, so almost $3,000 on super rare. And this is great because I think he's pretty recent on super rare. So anyways, this is Shadow Hider. Let's see if we can make it bigger. So again, playing with this kind of glitchy pixelation and shapes. So again, someone that comes out of Object that now is on super rare, which I think is awesome. I'm so glad that things have sort of turned out this way, because again, it's great to just have works on both. And Ethereum, you're going to pull in a little more cash, generally speaking. So Shadow Hider doing well there. Interesting dimension, 690 by 690. So not huge, but you don't need to be huge in the pixel world and pixel art world, this is somewhat pixel art. Very interesting work from Kristen Roos to our travel through the mediums theme. So if you're not familiar, most of you are familiar with Kristen Roos. This is Kristen Roos, who kind of brings almost a gallery museum sort of vibe to his work. Very experimental, sells really well. NFTs that are created with vintage software, and who, if you follow his feed, you get the sense, has a real sense of the history of digital art. So what's cool about Kristen Roos, almost taking what we're seeing there in those GIFs and putting them in physical form here. Hand-operated jacquard weaving in process, happy with this new experiment. I agree. It's looking really interesting. You see the yellow is behind. So almost taking that digital ideas and putting them into physical, which I think kind of, it's exciting and kind of breathes new life into physical work, right? Again, works that couldn't have been made, but in a digital world would never have been thought of, you might say. So cool work from Kristen Roos. Check this out. Work by Ed Marola, lady in yellow dress smoking and drinking Tego wine. So again, deviating from the purples, interestingly, and listen to the music. Let me just turn things up a bit here. And the music really adds a lot. It's back to, we're not just making pretty pictures here. These are poets that we're looking at here. Okay? So this is 3 minutes, so I'll let you play the rest on your own, but you can buy that work of art for 5 Tezos, which these days is near $3.25 US probably. So keeping it interesting. Very cool work from Ed Marola there. Continuing on bit by bit with a few one-of-ones. Okay, cheap one-of-ones. Okay, folks. Space Runner Nebula's Exploration 2066. And again, let's not forget, Object makes things move to the top here, so I can't control that. Unless Alexi has another hack for that. But we saw Byte by Bit, I think yesterday, posting works from 2002, I think, or 2003. So you can buy one-of-ones from an artist, a pretty cool pixel work for 10 Tezos, which is again maybe $7, $7.50, from someone that's been going on and on. These are deceptively simple looking. So again, using one of our favorite themes here, which Kristen Roos, vintage software, what I call retro tools, 1988 PC Paint 3.1 is being used here. So this is part of like what seems to be a sci-fi theme. He's got some others here. I'm a huge fan of these nebulas, cat paws nebula, where we'll basically take, telescope images and reduce them to, or turn them into pixel art and using vintage software. So very, very cool. Cat paws nebula. This one went pretty quickly. Let's see, cotton candy nebula still available for 10. So interesting. Almost looks like a canvas underneath here. So interesting color choice. He also puts out these fake video games. Something that I remember first seeing. That was my first. If you go to my collection, the first work I think you'll see is from Ghost Shoes, who I see is back on Twitter. She has kind of like these simulated video games, video games that never existed. And you see Byte by Bit is doing a similar theme here with Extreme Pong, copyright 2022, Byte by Bit. So anyways, Extreme Pong, a fake video game, very cool. Mech.txt, now a lot of us, I think, have seen this image. I think it was his profile picture on Twitter, or at least his profile picture here, or at least is similar to it, not exactly like it. And so here's a one of one. I'd love to see, like, Mech.txt has quite a fan base, I would say, from his pixel artwork. I would be very curious to see what one of ones would go for. He had one like a month ago that kind of flew under the radar that someone got for 50 Tezos. Now I think it would be, in the hundreds for sure. Anyway, here's a one of one. We'll see what he does with it. And here's Mech.txt on Twitter, just posting another image she was working on. So again, this pixelated nature always kind of looks great to me, and interesting, almost like some nice, almost like a medieval manuscript type look or Japanese book sort of thing. Just kind of nice patterning on the side there. Let's not take shortcuts, friends. Indeed. A few more. So I never showed this one by Tom Bombadil, but he had a couple of UFO works that I liked quite a bit. So this sold out pretty quickly. This is called Run, with his character with the mask there. And his character not with a mask. Interesting. More UFOs though. Really nice GIF work here. Let me just make that bigger. I love the clouds here too. So just interesting GIF work from Tom Bombadil. And this one just came out yesterday, Experiment. And so you see this guy is looking, it looks like a medical device. And these guys are analyzing the brain. So just kind of interesting, kind of sci-fi-esque works and pixel art. And with the retro game colors, nostalgic colors reminiscent of 8-bit games. So very productive there too. Now check this out. Mason the Third, kind of a really edgy artist, I'd argue. Now here, there's kind of a Nintendo glitch ROM thing going on, but listen to the music here. Let me get this started. The music is more beautiful music, again, which makes the piece. Listen to this. I mean, it sounds like beautiful Brian Eno or something, right? I mean, makes the piece. Like, it's sort of like, take that, Neue National Galerie. So, really, and this is the name of the work. Oh, and look at this, the poetry. The poetry. Like, if anybody has any doubts that there's something going on over here, look no further. Please set side B. The poetry. So anyways, I could play that on and on. Awesome work from Mason the Third. Continuing on. Buy for 5, by the way. Buy for 5, Tezos. And like, that incredible work, I just picked one up. There's 8 left, okay? Last we checked here. Nobody, it's like, wasn't even barely selling. This, I mean, you don't want to overuse the word masterpiece here, but with that music, I mean, it's just pure poetry. Pure poetry. Speaking of which, Martin Grasser, look at this work, and maybe a lot of you have heard who he is. Like, I never followed the generative art ever too closely, so that's a whole other area. But when I see something that really, impresses me, I have to show it, and this is really impressive. So, Punch Out, interesting title. And so I went to his profile and everything. So I guess he works with art blocks, right? And so he's put out a series here and these go for actually quite a bit of money, and I'll show you, but here's just an example, right? So you see where this all came from. Very nice generative art. And you see, like, look at how good it looks just on its own here. Squares number one, has offers for $2,000 here. And yeah, it's quite a few offers. I guess the bots are out. And minted for 2 ETH. So basically, it's kept its value, okay? Because people are bidding 1.77. So anyways, just really cool. On this kind of gradient theme, Dan Control, so he's put together, interestingly, all his other works and put it into one big work here, buy for 10, editions of 20. So you'll find all these in separate works. I think I have a few of these for sure. And anyway, interesting work from Dan Control. Still Friends, Still Life. And 15 are left, buy for 10. Sometimes he burns, so you might want to go quickly. So from that, so Lorna Mills plays with taste. Okay, so that's why we have Dolly Parton doing questionable things here. Sing a Song for Me, buy for 15, edition of 30. And of course, Lorna Mills has been around making GIFs for like almost 10 years, from my understanding, maybe 2014, maybe earlier. So anyways, it's nice to see like artists of repute on the platform, and regularly too, not putting a drop in August during the bull market and then disappearing, which does happen. From an artist who shall remain nameless, who is very famous, Venta. So we know Venta from some incredible AI work, okay? And Venta has a new series, and to me, this looks like sampled paintbrushes, right? Where you take a sample of something and then you start painting. But I'm not exactly sure. That's what this looks like, especially at the bottom, right? And we've seen there's another artist who I was showing his Instagram he's at Knip, I think is how you, GNYP here in Berlin. He's had a show. I can't remember his name. I always forget it. Anyway, he also uses that style. This seems to be using a few different things. Anyways, digital painting, follow the leader from Venta. I thought it kind of reminded me in a kind of oblique way. It kind of echoes in a weird way Les Demoiselles d'Avignon by Picasso in the Rose period. It just kind of has a weird, just kind of echoed it, made me think that. Here's another one. Don't Cry Over Spilt Monster. And again, really edgy the way that these arms are being drawn and everything. I just thought really interesting work. Bad Year, the clouds and everything. Just interesting digital painting. One of ones went to OMG Blog, who I think we just saw before on that Maze in the Third work. Look at this clown vamp. So interesting. Now, if you don't remember, so this is also Venta, okay? So we're just looking at this, and we're looking at this, okay? Now, Venta, you might remember from these awesome AI pieces. And I kind of feel like Venta had created their own thing, and I think if Venta just kept going, I think these pieces would all be sold out and would be at maybe 10x, or maybe not 10x, but you know what I'm saying? Basically, they still weren't selling out editions of 5. You can still get them. The editions of 1 are sold out. Actually, no, you can still get this one here, but you see, they're really going somewhere. So it'll be interesting to see if she picks it back up. I think it's a she, because I really thought Venta had made a little kind of space for themselves in the AI scene. So anyways, maybe just got tired of the series and did what she wanted to do. That happens too. So anyways, very interesting work as usual from Venta. Here's a couple more. Whelp, a 1 of 1 for 50 in the digital painting sphere. And here's Almost Home. So again, almost like an Ed Marola feel down here. interestingly. And it looks like a house or a barn on fire, or a house on fire. Interesting. Here's another AI artist who I'd never seen before, Layla Rue, Me and My Character, available on Foundation. So I looked up her work on Foundation, and some pretty nice work, right? And I think this uses AI and illustration. Let's just open. AI art and soul. And so if we go back there, I think ClownVamp picked that one. Yeah, sold to ClownVamp. So you see these collectors. When was this? December 1st. So it's a total addiction, and they're on a rampage here, and very nice work. So this went for half an ETH. Nice AI work by Layla Rue. So someone else to look at here, and here's just a quick overview, quick feel. Speaking of AI, so this was just interesting. Charles was revealing some of his process. I use a mix of Midjourney, DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion, and sometimes Runway. Now, I've never heard of Runway, and this is also interesting. So this Meta Riley was asking, like, what do you use? Which can be a sensitive question. It can be. Sometimes people will just share, as Charles AI is. Thanks. And Meta Riley says, thanks. Any tips or threads for those studying or thinking to? And this was also, I thought, really interesting. I got here by pure trial and error. So I can't really give you any specific reference, though I'm sure you can find a lot of tutorials on YouTube. And in a sense, there are no shortcuts here. Like if you can watch a YouTube video and then get like your results, then it's probably too easy anyway. So I'll just say Charles AI says, like, basically you have to work your way to get something that you like and that is going to be, that people appreciate. There are no shortcuts. As mech.txt was saying, don't take shortcuts. Another one by HalleyX, and just to show that the market, again, something we were mentioning yesterday, in Uxine, I don't know if you've been to Uxine's page, but it is like blowing up, okay? Like it's constant sales for like days, and it seems to be ramping up. So, and remember this theory I had that with Xcopy kind of giving the blessing to Uxine, that some Ethereum collectors might feel the need to get onto Tezos in a way that they hadn't before, especially because of Uxine's work. If you like Xcopy, you're going to like Uxine. And I have a theory, part of the reason, perhaps, a speculation, that things are getting more competitive and really buzzing, I would say, on Tezos right now with sales and everything, is perhaps the Uxine effect, or the Xcopy effect from early December. Because it takes a while, as we discussed on the Twitter Spaces, to kind of figure out what's going on Object, to kind of just understand what you're seeing. Okay, hopefully this show helps. So anyways, HalleyX, whose work we were looking at yesterday and earlier, 14 pieces picked up by Anonymous. So pretty cool. Okay, so now's a great time to be releasing art, guys, because people are out there collecting, they have time off, maybe a bit of extra money, and they're going for it. New one by Mr. Shapeless, which was slightly different. Inner Dialogue. Good night. So just interesting post here. A bit of a DALL-E feel with these small kind of figures in this landscape. Vaguely DALL-E-esque. And these beautiful clouds that Mr. Shapeless loves. Another one, as we wrap up here, this time from Sum. Any shelf for many dreams. So again, someone in a modern room. These shelves almost look like a painting in itself. But anyways, a really beautiful work. I'm pretty sure Sum uses DALL-E and maybe does a few touch-ups afterwards. Kind of has when I upload works, which is one of the things you can do on DALL-E, it does start to give you these kind of rough, feely looks. Like it'd be interesting to make a work and then upload it to DALL-E and see the result. A new one from Ilya Shipkin. This one moves. So playing with movement here. This is an MP4, Abandoned Muse, and Ilya Shipkin, he uses AI and digital painting, from my understanding. So a cool one of one, not for sale yet. And here's another one that seemed to be using a few things. I mean, it's tempting when you see all this to think it's AI mixed with painting. This is from an artist called Indy Solta. Maybe we've seen them before. Digital artist since 2004. Father, I Turn Ugly into Beauty. Works available on Foundation. And John Roos, who we've also looked at, that's where the whole Francis Bacon episode came from. So just posting another interesting work, I believe works physical, as you can see here, and turns them into NFTs, which sell quite well. Obviously a super talented artist. Kind of a head turner when I was on Twitter here. Number 8 by Arash, and I'd never heard of Arash before, but they have an object and a foundation. And let me just see. Yeah, so cool. So physical paintings as we wrap up here. And here's Arash's object here. So again, putting physical paintings as NFTs. It's interesting when sometimes this is controversial because some people want something that is kind of digitally native. Like myself, I have a slight bias, but I think anybody should do whatever they want. And if people want to sell and buy, I think it's wonderful. People are making art and selling it and buying it. That's great. From my perspective, which nobody needs to share, when people start animating in it, though, I think it starts to go in more of a gray zone where it's like, oh, well, this is digitally native because without this animation, it could not exist. So, but it's kind of a gray zone. It's not a black or white, clear distinction. Here's another example of that, Ducante draws. So here with an animation. So then it's like, oh, okay, this isn't just a physical NFT. Cool work. Auto-portrait, so self-portrait in like French, and then you could also say that in Italian. Ducante draws with another beautiful work. And here's a new one from Filippo, who we've also looked at in the past. This is an oil painting, Cosmic Scream abstract oil painting for 0.25 ETH. So another physical work as an NFT. And it's interesting. Filippo does physical and digital paintings. Okay, so they kind of mix it up. And so you'll see this. I feel like we've looked at Filippo before, but it's always good to revisit. So we're getting a good feel for the scene here as we go on our journey. So thank you for joining me, dear viewer, this year and this episode. And hope you have a happy new year, a safe and happy new year. And until next time, take care.